Welcome to episode 162 of the Reptile Gumbo podcast. We're all here.
Yep.
Yay, we're all here.
I canceled plans just for you.
Just for me, just for the listeners.
Just for the listeners.
She did it just for y'all out there listening.
Well, I also did it because our kid is exhausted because
she also did because she just didn't want to go.
it's a 4-day. Long weekends are the worst when you're going back to school or work or
No, the weekends are great. It's
no. It's
the week.
the first day back. It's just brutal.
Yeah, but long weekends aren't bad. It's the
I
week
had
that makes
6
it bad.
kids fall asleep in class this morning because they were so tired from
Only
their
6.
weekend.
I had 6 kids in first period fall asleep this morning. That's a normal thing.
Anyways,
32
wake ups, babe.
Want to do our sponsors? Go pulled up.
Sure. If you're looking for a high quality PVC rack, look no further than Lone Star Reptile Racks. They offer a variety of sizes for all types of snakes, geckos, rats, and more. You can even order something custom. Shipping is available, or you can plan to pick up at a Herps Reptile show near you. Visit lsreptileracks.com to reach out to Lone Star Reptile Racks and place your order today. Woo.
Yeah. Do that. Be there, be square. Shut up. Anyways, Herps Reptile shows. I have that pulled up. Let me go ahead. The next Herps Reptile show is a big one for us. We're not vending it.
We're not. We're just going to hang out.
Just going to hang out.
I'm
Lucky.
excited.
And we're getting our chameleon from the
right.
Reddies.
Yay.
Cannot wait. It's going to be awesome.
I'm excited.
So that's all. I should probably tell you when it is. It's the Austin, Texas show. It's April 22nd, 23rd. So come on out to the Austin show. If you need a rack or a cage, get with Robert soon. See if you can get one for that show. He'll be there. And then May 6th, 7th is the Pearland show, or what gets posted as the South Houston show.
Yeah, I think so.
But come on up. That's our home show. We get to sleep in our own beds, and I'm taking off that Friday to help set up, so I get to hang out, and it'll be fun. Then the Lake Charles show, June 3rd and 4th. I'm interested to see how Lake Charles goes. We haven't been there in like 2.5 years.
Conroe's the next weekend.
Conroe's June 10th and 11th. That's Katie's birthday weekend.
Yep.
Then there's the Shreveport show, June 24th and 25th will be interesting because it's the first time it's in Shreveport. Was the Longview, Texas show. Some scheduling conflicts. It's going to be in Shreveport. It could be interesting. Then the Slidell show, July 22nd, 23rd. Then all the way up to Oklahoma City, July 29th, July 30th. We went to Oklahoma this weekend. And that was a...
No. You didn't go for the weekend.
No.
You
We
did
went
it
for a
in
day.
We didn't go for a day.
We
went for like 2 hours.
You were gone for a day.
Just so anybody wonders, it is about 8 hours from our house to where
It took us 9 to get there.
That's true. With stops to get to where you had to go to Tulsa, basically. We went to Tulsa. And then we got to go see our buddy John Grant's shop. We've never seen his shop.
John and Callie shop.
I'm sorry, Callie.
John Grant and his old lady.
But that shop is awesome. I've never been there.
Yeah.
And John's not one to toot his own horn sometimes, but I will. Toot, motherfucker. That's a nice shop.
Mm-hmm.
It's small.
I have heard about this shop nonstop since he's been back.
It's small.
About how awesome it is and how nice everything was.
Organized.
You definitely made an impression.
It
on
smelled
Lewis.
good. When you walked in, it smelled good.
Nice.
And
which is not normal for
any pet store.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great reptile store where you'll find things that you don't normally find, like a PetSmart or a Petco, and it's got cages and racks for sale from someone I know.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some amazing animals there, so you can get all your feeders there. So if you're anywhere in the Tulsa area, it's I forget where the
Sand Springs.
I knew it was some random place in Oklahoma, but if you're anywhere in that area, go check out the Grant Family Exotics. It's a free plug to John's shop. But then we hung out there, and then we drove the 9-something hours back here.
We left my house at 6 a.m. and got back at 3:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. I'm still tired. I still haven't recovered.
But I did get to eat at Carl's Jr. I like Carl's Jr.
Didn't you eat there twice?
No, I only ate there once on the way up.
Oh, but you ate there today, didn't you?
So I had to go. So I got a weird thing off of Facebook Marketplace. I wasn't Facebook Marketplace. It was in a talk of group. Somebody was giving away rhea and emu eggs. And I was like, I'll take a rhea and an emu egg for my classroom to show kids the giant ass egg. And when I drove out to the house, I realized at that point I was only like 12-15 minutes away from the Carl's Jr. that's closest to us. So I just went ahead and drove down to Carl's Jr. And
he messaged me. He's like, I'm 20 minutes away. I was like, just go.
But then by the time I got to 288, I was only like 12 minutes away.
No, I'm not.
Oh.
He's like, no, I'm not going to go. And then he texts me again. I'm only like 14 minutes away. I'm like, dude, just go. So he went.
Yeah, I went to Liverpool, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been there till today. It says the city of Liverpool. I didn't see
It's
a
a
city.
village.
There's no city. The sign says city.
Yeah, they have one police officer.
I think I saw their Walmart. It's called Dollar General.
Yep.
I don't know,
Fenton, Louisiana.
but no, but it said
It's the
sign.
village of Fenton.
But this says sign that says city of
Oh,
Liverpool. I'm like, I think we're over pushing this one. It's not really a
No,
city.
they're incorporated. They have a mayor. They have a city council.
nice.
Are they the
It's
same
like
person?
everybody in town.
I think I drove through all of Liverpool.
Yeah.
And then I realized how far south I was. And I came out at the exit that we normally take to go herping. That was how far south I was.
Yep, I know exactly where Liverpool is.
And then I got the eggs home, and then I realized the Rhea egg was fine, but the emu egg has been painted.
It looks like they had it sitting somewhere and they spray painted something, and it like
Way
the
over.
mist got on. You know, y'all just have like
So-
the
Like a cool emu egg is like a green egg, and it's cool. I'm kind of upset. But anyways, they were free. What can I say? They were free.
And what'd you get them for?
Just for my classroom, just to have big ass eggs to show kids. That'd be cool. And then Corpus Christi, that is August 12th and 13th. So there's our herp shows coming up.
Liverpool has a population of 494.
Well, one person's moving out of Liverpool, which I wouldn't mind buying. I took a picture of the sign for the realtor because like it sat on some nice land. It was off the road. I'd live there. I would totally live there.
Mm-hmm.
I probably can't afford it because I'm sure land is expensive. But
Well, everybody just got their property tax statements yesterday from Brazoria County, and people are losing their minds because
if this happens. This has happened every year that we've lived here for this.
every other
3
2
years, most people's stuff has gone up 40% in valuation.
Jesus.
Ever since the state said you can't raise taxes on property more than X amount percent, so the county's like, okay, we'll just raise the
We'll
value
just
of
raise it
everything.
to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our old friend C Anal Side Exotic says we have good fast food places down here. This is true. We do. I love Carl's
We
Jr.
had a Bojangles.
Bojangles is good too.
Could go for some Bowberry biscuits.
We were going to get my favorite calzone ever in the world that I grew up on that we don't have around here anymore.
I was looking forward to
Simon's.
it.
And John called while we were on the way, and they were like, we just they have these giant pizzas they sell, take like an hour to cook. We just filled all 3 of our ovens up with giants.
So
it'll
we
be
can't
like
make
an hour.
anything.
So we went to Monterey's Little Mexico, which was pretty good.
That's fine.
I got a picture of cheese
They
dip.
all ordered the same thing.
We did all order the same thing.
Yeah.
And you
James was
did.
excited they had white queso.
Love white queso. Now we're on to talking about food. This is a reptile podcast. We'll talk reptiles at some point, but food's important.
You know,
So,
love
anyways,
food.
those that don't know, Carl's Jr. is you're farther east. It's Hardee's. I grew up with a Hardee's. But once you get past the Mississippi River, it's Carl's Jr. over here. Oh yeah, my dad. There's a place in Tallahassee, Florida called Momo's Pizza. The pizza's like 3.5 foot wide.
that's the mayor of Liverpool's official photo on the website in his like dirty work shirt.
What?
That's so fabulous. I need to be friends with these people. Those are
Well,
my,
I know where there's a
love
house
it.
for sale. I took a picture of the sign. You can call and find out how much it is.
That's awesome.
It says call for details.
Wow, they don't even have it. It's not even like on a website.
I haven't looked to see if there was one, just to call for details, and
That's fabulous.
it's a lot of land. They apparently owned emus and rheas out there at some point, but they don't own them anymore. I don't know if they ate them or what. They're not there now.
They have 4 police officers now.
4 whole police
a
officers.
chief, a sergeant, a corporal, and a patrolman. So they're very top heavy.
It's 3 guys sitting back at an office and 1 guy just driving around the city of
Oh my
Liverpool.
gosh.
Oh, that's enough to staff 4 shifts.
There you go.
That way everybody,
Well, they
gets
don't tell-
Everybody gets
2 days
a-
off.
What they don't tell you
Yeah.
is one of those is a dog.
Yeah,
Everybody works at least one weekend.
a chief, a sergeant,
Maybe
a
2.
corporal,
The corporal's the dog.
and a patrolman. And the corporal also doubles as the court bailiff for the municipal court.
The patrolman's actually a horse, and the corporal's a dog.
I mean, that's like 3/4 of the department is leadership.
It's fabulous.
Oh,
We should go ahead and bring our guest in.
we should go ahead and bring our guest in, and then we can get
Yeah.
talking about some stuff. So I think I remember how to pronounce his name. I'm not going to mess it up. Watch, here we go. Welcome, Dr. Ben Morrill.
You nailed it.
I got it. Yes. 'Cause that is-
Moral of the story.
That's
it's
funny.
tricky.
I was
spelled.
gonna say Morrill.
Nope. I only know that. I only know that because I listened to a podcast he was on. I listened to his podcast the other day. So, although I have a bone to pick, it's not really a podcast because it's on YouTube and it's not on podcast stuff. So I had to walk around with it in my pocket while I was fishing the other day with YouTube pulled up because you can't close your screen out with YouTube.
Oh yeah, I think you have to have the paid for YouTube to be able to do that.
Not doing that shit. I'm not paying YouTube.
I pay too much for other streaming services. I can't
Setting
do the
up the
same thing.
laser the
I'm
last
the
couple days.
same.
I've watched so many YouTube videos, and every time the damn double commercials come on at the
Oh.
beginning, I'm just like, God, I just need this information.
And I feel kind of bad because the way YouTube has changed their stuff now, you have to watch the whole commercial for them to get their money. They'll still put that skip up there after like 5 seconds on
Oh,
something.
I skip it.
I do too. But if you don't watch the whole thing, they don't get their money.
Oh, I didn't know that. I don't watch enough YouTube to know these things.
Yeah, YouTube has found ways to screw certain people out of money. Anyways, so, my dad said the patrolman gets fucked and works every holiday.
Oh, I guarantee it.
Oh, sorry. Anyways, how's it going?
It's going all right.
It's a very cool background you have.
Thank you.
You send in part of that, and he'll tell you what it is and what sex it is.
Oh,
And that
okay.
every gene that you thought you had is the exact
I
same
now
thing.
remember the entire conversation that he had with me the other night about who we were going to have on the podcast tonight and what we're going to talk about.
Welcome to the conversation.
I apologize.
So before we get into that, and
Let's-
before we get into this, and Ben, feel free to jump in on this conversation. For anybody who has not been living under a rock for the last 5 days, in the reptile hobby, some crazy shit has happened. We're going to talk about it a little bit this week, and then our guest next week will really enjoy talking about it.
Yeah, I'm hoping by next week that I will have been able to stomach learning more about the situation, because I'll be completely honest with our listeners. I messaged both Robert and James today and was like, I can give you about 10 minutes on the topic, and that's about as much as I'm going to be able to stomach, or I'm going to have to leave the room. I couldn't watch any of the videos. I couldn't. I couldn't. It was
So
well,
for anybody out there that's listening that doesn't know what we're talking about somehow, Florida Wildlife Commission, is that what FWC?
Yeah, something like that.
Anyways, they're wildlife and fisheries, basically, folks. They went to a person's house with from everything I've understood and pulled together, with I'm going to say excuse. It's a bullshit story, and I don't care what they say. They said that apparently a retic had gotten loose in the general area, and because this guy's animals were permitted and they know about them, they went to his house to see if all of his retics were still in their cages.
Now, hold on. Before you go any further, in Florida, these animals are now illegal, correct?
Yes.
But he was grandfathered in.
No,
No.
nobody's grandfathered in.
But see, that's not what they said when they passed the law.
I understand, but what they say and what the law says can be two different things.
Because
That's why I don't listen to politicians.
because there are recordings of when they passed it.
Yes,
People asking them that question. They said, "We will not come kill your snakes.
but they did.
Your snakes will get to outlive their life, or get to live their life with you."
So
That
he
was-
had 29 retics left of 5 Burmese out of over 100
that he had rehomed.
because they did not renew his permit.
Yeah.
I told him you got to rehome them by this date. Well, that's hard to rehome that many big snakes. And he called and said, "Hey, I still have these left. I need an extension." And they just showed up.
And they used the excuse for coming in to see if any of his retics were the one that was supposedly loose in the general area. It wasn't. But once they were in there, from my understanding, there were some tickets written, and apparently at one point was arrested.
Yeah, so that was whenever he originally. That's right. Okay, I got my story mixed up. When he originally hit the deadline, they came out and arrested him, charged him with like 70 counts, and I guess he's now on probation. And it's
Yeah, he's able to pay off
life.
and get out.
Yeah,
So what they did on this trip was they then went in and killed all the snakes. They killed all of the retics and berms with a
captive bolt gun.
captive bolt gun, which basically just they shoot a bolt through the head of the snake and kill it. And so in the video, there's a video because he was smart enough to put up his phone and record this happening.
Now, this is the part that I had the issue with.
So-
Is I didn't understand why you wouldn't just have like a vet come in and euthanize things or something like that. Apparently, this is a very common, humane way that certain animals
when done correctly.
are disposed of when done correctly.
They charged him with 72 criminal charges. However, rather than seize the animals at that time, FWC officers told Coffee that he had to continue to keep the snakes in captivity, and that he could not rehome or euthanize them, or he would be arrested again. So he was not allowed to rehome.
And he was
the
told to
remaining
keep them.
Yes.
And so they came back, and in that collection, there was also a large pregnant female boa, which is legal. Has never been illegal. It was illegal. Is allowed to keep that. If you watch the video, they're going through pulling snake after snake, killing them.
I couldn't even get to this point in the
They
video.
pull the boa out, they kill it, and then one of them turns around and take a picture of the label. And at that moment, he realizes immediately that he had just killed a boa and freaks out, turns around and looks at the other guy, who then also realizes they had just killed the boa that they were not supposed to kill.
And I watched that part of the video a lot of times, and those guys, that shit really looked like they were acting.
Yeah.
I mean, it
So
did
Do you
not look
think they did it
genuine.
on purpose?
I don't know.
I think there's a lot of fishy shit,
They
but-
killed it on purpose.
Obviously, but
and at that moment, they went through killing the rest of the snakes. They then told the guy that killed the snake that he had told them not to kill because they were not all his snakes. That boa was obviously not his. If you watch the video, it was pregnant. And then they go, well, it's fine. Can we still save them? Can we cut them out and save them? No, the boa was nowhere near giving birth. Also, one was like, well, we'll make it better. We'll make it okay. No, you won't. It's dead. There's no reversing that part. You put a bolt through its head. And so, yeah, that's where we sit today. That all happened last Thursday, and it's fucked up. If you can make it through the video, it is rough. If stuff like that bothers you, don't even try. It's a rough video to watch. And the way they at one point they're posing with the snakes to take pictures with these big dead snakes.
That's what bothered me the most. Well, and the reason I could not watch the video, it had nothing to do with the fact that they were killing these animals. It had everything to do with the fact that they looked like they were getting their rocks off on getting
That
it
one
done.
dude was smiling like
If you're
So-
going to go in and do something like this, you need to be professional
Yes.
and you need to just go in and you need to do it. And you don't need to be looking like you're having the best time ever in the process of killing someone's entire collection. Like that's the part that like I literally feel like I could vomit.
Animal Side Exotics. If you go to US Arc Florida's YouTube page,
It's in our it's posted on ours.
You know,
It's-
on our group also.
If you're going to go on a rant as a representative of the reptile community, maybe have someone write it for you.
well, that's what we're going to get to in just a minute.
So
I'm just reading this
anyway,
down.
so
It's like,
that's where we stand with that. That's what has happened so far. There have been people that have been sending emails to state representatives, to Florida Wildlife
To the
Commission.
FWC, yeah.
And their response now basically says that he relinquished the animals to them, and he asked them to kill them on his property. And I don't know, I've got some ideas in my mind of how they can twist what happened to make it sound like that. But there's no way a guy goes, hey, can y'all come on over here and
yeah, hey, while you're here,
Kill
while
these
you're looking for
motherfuckers.
that missing retic, come on in here and
just go ahead and kill. Oh, while you do it in the middle of my snake room, and let's go ahead and get blood all over the place too. That'd be great too if y'all could go ahead and do that. So
yeah.
so anyways,
As a former police officer, I understand you follow orders, but you don't follow orders that are unlawful or immoral. And this was borderline unconstitutional. We also don't know the whole story.
that's true.
We don't yet, which is why I think in a week after the shock of it has kind of like, I'm over it,
Right.
sort of, as much as you can be over something like this, I guess. And I think once we have more information, but with that being said, in the point from here to then, don't make us look like raging, psychotic, crazy people.
I've
Like
seen
people
so
die.
many comments. I would have been in jail for murder if that would have been my snake.
No,
A,
you would
wouldn't have.
not.
You would.
And B, you're
Quit
just making
talking
us
out of your
fucking look
ass.
worse.
Those are also law enforcement. Like you can't.
Yes, you're just making us look worse.
They would
when
have
you-
shot you.
I understand, and I am just as passionate and just as upset as everybody, but saying things like that, writing them down,
There's a right way to do it and a wrong way
if
to
you
do
don't
it. And
think
it's
somebody at the FWC is recording every single one of those comments.
100%. There is someone, or if not multiple someone's, whose only job right now
Yes.
is to sit and go through all the social
Well,
media.
their social media has somewhat been shut down today because of
Yeah.
the overwhelming flood of people into their stuff.
Well, and
Like,
there are, I've seen images. I don't know if they're the correct addresses, but I've seen images of addresses. I've seen images of phone numbers so you can call and give them your opinion. Don't get sucked into the craziness
now
and the rioting.
I know we
because
only-
that's where we're gonna go.
I
And
know we only
then-
know one side, but US Arc did release some stuff, and I feel if US Arc is going to release things,
US Arc Florida.
US Arc Florida, then there's probably some truth behind whatever they're releasing.
Absolutely. So I see where they had the director where he said we're not going to take away
Yeah.
your pets.
There's
And then he later
recordings of
said that was substantial misinformation. being spread about him saying that. But apparently USARK has the receipts.
They have the recording. You can
Right.
listen to it. You can listen
Right.
to him say it.
Right.
He's like, no, we are not going to take your animals. They will get to live out their life.
Tell you what, if you live in Florida and you have reptiles, it is time to move.
Get the fuck out of there.
It is not going to get better.
Don't go to Georgia. Go farther away from they're bad too, but get the fuck out of Florida.
They're going to double down. Florida's going to double down. They're going to use this as an excuse to do more, because they're going to say, look at all these violent threats that we've received. Look at all these messages that we've received from these unhinged reptile people, because
And
they have.
we're going to be unhinged. Yeah.
So this whole thing had me rethinking. I've always kind of been a pro permit system. I think it was a good idea. But then now I can see, I've always looked at some people as conspiracy theorists, but now I see it. Permits do tell you where the snakes are.
That's why
And that's
every gun owner in the country is against a national gun registry, because it's just, hey, here's a list of everybody to go.
Because I mean, that's how they knew it. He had them properly permitted.
He was doing it right. That's what sucks. Horrible. There's so many keepers in Florida that are keeping underground now. I'm saying that in quotes, because they're like, I don't want the fucking government to know what I have.
No.
Just like
they're making it.
The big thing in the gun community is, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. ATF agent, I lost all of my guns in a boating accident 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same way with the reptiles.
But those laws, what they did was they literally made innocent people criminals overnight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They made that guy a criminal overnight.
My thing is what is their motivation?
Misinformation.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, killing those retics doesn't remove Burmese pythons from the Everglades.
Yeah. And
which is their whole argument.
If we go release 1,000 Burmese pythons in the Everglades, it's not going to be any worse than it already is.
Sam said, wait till they publish the addresses of the keepers in local media like they did the gun owner
That's right.
in New York. Yeah.
I did.
So, Ben, how's it going?
All right. We're going to talk a lot more about this next week.
I'm going good. I definitely hated seeing all of that, and social media is where I saw all that, and yeah, that's pretty horrible.
I have non-reptile people today that have been sending it to me via private
too.
messages, and I'm like, yep, I'm aware.
Yep, me too.
Yeah, it's rough. Like I said, don't if stuff like that bothers you, and it should you should not be able to watch that video without it bothering you. But you don't need to. Trust me, you've heard what happened. There's no need for you to sit through that.
One thing I do want to say before we go on to the good stuff, go join USARK Florida.
Yeah, even if you don't live in Florida.
$7 a month.
Yeah,
it's a completely different organization from USARK. They have their own board, their own director, their own funding.
Yep.
They need money because that is,
they're going to fight.
People are filing complaints against these officers and stuff. Florida has some of the strongest qualified immunity laws for police officers in the country. They're not going to get sued. The officers aren't going to lose their jobs. The department's not going to discipline them for doing what they told them to go out and do. Support USARK so that they can continue to sue the shit out of Florida to try and. USARK is trying to get Florida Fish and Wildlife's ability to police captive animals taken away.
Well, because this whole thing was basically they were basically unconstitutional. They were overstepping, and making laws within their ability, so they didn't have to go the proper way to make these laws. And it's just the whole thing's up. So, anyways, we'll talk more about it with.
Yep,
we're gonna have Ryan McVeigh on next week. Ryan will be very interesting in that conversation.
He'll know more than any of us.
Yeah, I agree. So. Let's talk genetics since we have Dr. Morrill on. See, I got to slow myself.
So hard for you.
I don't
Moral of the story.
I look at how it's
he
spelled,
looks at how it's spelled.
And then it's like Morrill.
Like it's like mushrooms. Those Morrill.
Those are Morels.
Morels.
Those have an E in them.
An E.
Look, his has an I in it, and we don't pronounce it.
Morrill.
Moral.
See,
yeah.
See,
you kind of do.
Can't look at it.
No, you kind of.
Okay. All right. Anyways, I looked. We had you on a little over a year ago in March.
Different co-hosts?
No, you were here.
Oh.
I mean, y'all were my co-hosts, and you may not have been here.
Okay.
We had him on. You were here.
Didn't we talk? Okay.
So we talked. We've done genetics a couple times.
Yes. We talked to someone.
Dr. Seidel, who
Seidel.
we can also talk about because I know that Ben is.
Did we talk to a woman?
That was Dr.
Seidel.
Okay.
And her colleague. There was two of them.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Probably a month before we had him on.
This is just.
We had 160 episodes. It's okay to not remember them all, Katie.
I feel bad.
Don't. No worries.
I'm like, oh, I should be better at this.
No, we talked about them because they were doing
We were mailing snake skins to people.
they were doing albinos. Was that what they were working with at the time, or yellow? But what were they doing?
You're talking about Dr. Seidel?
Seidel, yeah.
Yeah, a year ago they were doing Yellow Belly Complex.
Yeah. And so
I was not drinking that day. I don't drink.
The amount of change, what you've done a lot since the last time we had you on. And we can get to kind of in a timeline. I look forward to
I quit my job.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's exciting news.
That is fun.
I remember last time we talked to you, you were like, I'm not sure if this is going to actually become a business or not. And when we hung up, I was like, this is going to be a business.
That's a little scary, but it's worked out
is.
really well so far. We've been really happy. Lots of people have found the testing helpful, and I'm especially thankful. It makes it I can do all reptile and DNA stuff from now on.
That is so cool.
Well, and since then you've also tied in with Morph Market.
Yep. And
oh no, we wasted all the time talking about Florida now, and now it's frozen.
Oh, did I cut out?
Oh, there we
there
go.
he
There you
is.
are. You're back.
Yes. So there are our two vendors to help sell the
Yeah, it's Morph Market
tests.
and Clutch.
Clutch. Yep.
Clutch, which is the program from Canova, right?
Justin was a part of
Justin,
a very big part of designing and figuring out the coolest ways to help people keep track of clutches and babies being born. And Morph Market's done very similar things as well over the last few months. They've both improved those capabilities in their software for keepers, which is really cool that both of them are focusing on that.
Well, and you're working, so you've got the ball python stuff, but you also do colubrid testing.
Yep, sex determination.
And that works on all colubrids, no matter what it is at this point?
The only one that I've had a real tough time with that people have sent in, obviously I haven't tested every species, but of the ones that have come in, the only one that's been a problem is tricolored hognose snakes. For whatever reason, sometimes the test works okay and sometimes it just doesn't. And so other than tricolored hogs, corn snakes, milk snakes, king snakes, hog, eastern hog, western hog, the kind of more common colubrids that people keep, and rat snakes, various rat snakes, all of those have worked well.
Okay, so we got that, and then the big one, I guess your probably your biggest thing business wise has been the ball pythons, though, right?
That's definitely since we're able to use the information that's been published by Dr. Seidel. There's also a group from Canada that did some work on piebald and ball pythons, and then we did a bunch of sequencing and found clown, and we're close on a couple others as well. So we're starting to get to where we can do tests for the genetic mutations that cause the color and pattern mutations that people like in reptiles. And so ball pythons is where we started, since there's so many ball pythons, so many people have them. That was the best way for me. The position I'm in, I like a lot of different species. I've had ball pythons since 2002, or no, I guess that's when I first bred them. I got my very first one in like, I don't know, 99 probably. But I had my first breeding was 2002 and got my first babies 2003. But I'm interested in lots of species, and I just wanted to develop genetic tests. I've worked in other industries, captive breeding, mostly for food animals, so cattle.
That's right.
Poultry.
You had was it the pig that you can eat?
Yep. We did. We did make an alpha gal. So people that get alpha gal syndrome, the meat allergy, the full-time job that I quit, we did develop a pig that those people can eat, because we knocked out the little cell surface sugar that causes that allergy. We knocked that out in the pig so that people can eat that meat, and it is approved by the FDA to be safe.
Wow.
It's such a weird thing to think that you genetically changed a pig so that people can eat the pig.
Well, we actually changed it so that we could transplant organs into pig organs into humans, but that also made it so that it could be edible as well for
which is
people that
a
got
ton of science. a lot of things are side effects of someone trying to figure out something else.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, there's lots of people. We've sent out dozens and dozens and dozens, have probably hundreds at this point of, a few pounds of pig meat. And so far it's been free to people. But people that have had alpha gal, there's people that have had it for over 20 years. They haven't been able to have any mammalian meat, and all of a sudden they're getting to have bacon for the first time in 20
my
years.
God.
Yeah, we've had some very
I would cry.
emotional videos that have come in, people showing when they have bacon for the first time in years and years. People are pretty happy about that.
That's so
It's
crazy.
like those videos you see people that put colorblind glasses on for the first time. They see color for the first time. It'd be the same
Yeah.
thing.
Or when
Oh,
they take an infant that hasn't, or a toddler that's never been able to hear, and they put the cochlear implants in, and when they turn them on, yeah, I would be like that with bacon. Like, I think I would rather be deaf than not be able to eat bacon.
Bacon ranks up there.
Dude, food is happiness.
It is. We talk about it quite frequently on our podcast.
And people will save any fat from it, that they get it all to be able to put in, beans or in a soup or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't have any of that. Some of the people are so sensitive, they can't even be in a room where mammalian meat's being cooked. Even the smell will make them have to go to the hospital.
Imagine what that does to the family. Like, that changes how you have to be as a family.
It does. For people, not everyone's that sensitive.
I don't know that we love each other enough to give up meat for each other, baby.
Not everyone's that sensitive. Some people it's much less sensitive, but some people are so sensitive. There's one really sad story. A guy, his lifelong dream was to own a barbecue restaurant.
Oh, shit.
And he ended up getting that. And so he can't even go near his restaurant.
And most of them get it from the Lone Star tick, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I may have to get out of this fucking state. I can't risk that.
It's not just a Texas tick. They call it the Lone Star tick because it has a star on it.
No, I'm blaming Texas.
Not because it's
I'm blaming
found in Texas.
I'm gonna move to Alaska. Are there any in Alaska? There's probably none in Alaska.
There's lots of black flies and mosquitoes.
But I can still eat pigs, right?
Sure. It's going to cost you like $20 a pound.
But I can still eat them.
Sure, if you can afford it.
It's close.
Yeah.
Anyways,
let's talk about the latest thing I saw you guys that put out about three of the genes three of the names that we have out there
where you crush people's hopes and dreams
that you figured out are the same.
Hypo ghost and orange ghost.
Yes.
Yeah, so Dr. Sadell has done the majority of the work on that. We sent her some sequence from our large ball python whole genome to kind of help seal any cracks and make sure everything was figured out. But she did the majority of the work on that, and all the testing she's done, all the testing I've done, whether the sample was given as a hypo ghost or an orange ghost, it's identical. It's a 5 base pair deletion.
So this isn't like things that are in a complex. This isn't like the blue-eyed leucistic complex where those are different genes all giving the same outcome. These are 3 of the exact same thing.
That we can tell so far, yeah, it's identical. It's theoretically possible that there's another gene somewhere, 100,000 base pairs away that sometimes goes with it that causes, some more orange coloration or whatever. But what's causing hypomelanism is identical. It's the same mutation.
So do you think that at this point, if someone wants to argue, well, my ghost looks different, do you think it's just a series of breedings now at this point that they've just bred hypos with hypos? So at this point, whatever hypos you started out with has strengthened that polygenetic look. That's why it looks different. Maybe it's not genetically different. You just have been breeding for a look at this point.
Yeah, it's a line bred difference. So it's a polymorphic difference. There are multiple genes on multiple chromosomes. So if you breed for really big snakes, you can eventually get bigger snakes. If you breed for really yellow snakes, you can get more and more yellow snakes. So that, if people have tried to really optimize how much orange is in their hypos, they've got these orange hypos. It's not because of the gene that's causing hypomelanism. It's because of all the other genes that are making it more orange. And so that's, if you were paying more for that, it's for those other genes that increase your chances of having some orange there, but it has nothing to do with the actual hypomelanistic part of it.
Have you had any negative kickback, or have you heard through the grapevine people getting upset at the fact that you just said that their snake is the same as somebody else's snake?
I haven't. I've had people ask, if this line or that line is compatible. And I say, well, if you've got some, send it to me. They're like, oh, I don't have any, but a friend does. Nobody's sent anything. I would be happy to test if somebody has something, especially if they've bred it to a ghost or hypo or orange ghost, and they did not get ghosts or hypos.
Yeah.
So there's some evidence that it's something different. I would love to see a picture and get a shed from it and run it and see what it looks like. But yeah, so far everything that's hypo or het hypo is identical. So hypo ghost, same thing.
When can we squash the bananas and
Coral glow.
coral glow thing? When can we go ahead and stop saying those two different things?
Pretty quick. We've got that. We've got that pretty well located. We're going to have a pretty cool publication actually talking about sex determination, and since that's sex linked, that'll be part of that publication. So that'll be a scientific journal article.
Awesome.
You're the worst enemy to any breeder of ball pythons in the late 2000s, because everybody had their own name for everything, and it was theirs, and no one else had one like theirs. And then you come along and go, no,
Identical.
it's the same.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully,
the same box. It's the same thing.
Hopefully, most people by now would, not be too bothered by someone saying that coral glow and banana are the same. But yeah, we'll know for sure. And what did surprise me when Dr. Siddell worked on the yellow belly complex, I wouldn't have been surprised either way, really, with like gravel and asphalt. The fact that those actually are literally different mutations in different locations of the same gene was pretty interesting. It wouldn't have surprised me if they were identical. And then there's just, some that look a little different. But yeah, they are literally different mutations on the same gene. So the same location, but that's, a few base pairs down, there's a different change that causes a very similar look. So that's pretty cool. So that can happen, but a lot of the time they're just identical.
I love it. I love I love crushing hopes and dreams.
You're so funny.
Well, just it got really annoying. Just the naming. Look, we've talked about it before. You go on Morph Market and you look at the morphs of ball pythons, and the fucking name list is ridiculous. And you know that most of the things on there are either the same thing as something else, or they're fucking nothing. That's the reason there's only one of that kind of thing for sale from some random dude that no one's ever heard of, because he got one random snake and it looks slightly different. And he went, "Yep, this is a morph." And I'm like, you don't know anything about genetics. You don't even stop that. You're throwing around words you don't even know. You don't even know what het is short for. So
yeah,
drives me nuts.
For so long, we called a lot of things codominant.
Yeah.
You still hear that some, but that one's the one that bothered me the most.
I've stopped. I did grow up with hypoboas being codominant. And then as I became a biology teacher, I was like, wait a minute. That doesn't work.
No,
so,
not true.
Yes, it is. But you still hear it sometimes just because it was ingrained for so long.
Definitely in the ball python world, a lot of people still say it. But yeah, I've been fighting that for like 20 years.
But that's what I've talked about before with when it comes to genetics and reptiles is you have these folks that barely passed high school biology who now think they're genetics wizards because they know the words codom, incomplete, or het, but they don't actually know how any of that shit works or what they're actually. It's just a color. They're just comparing it to a color.
What's that meme from Princess Bride? The word does not mean what I think you think it means, or something like that.
You just butchered that, but okay.
Yeah, I did.
But you got the point across.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just it's got to, as a geneticist, it's got to be like, God, just shut up and breed your snakes.
It's kind of two things. Like sometimes if I hear the same incorrect thing over and over again, it does get a little annoying. But at the same time, like the herp nerd in me is happy that at least people are interested enough to try to learn some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Going around talking to people at shows, I can tell a lot of people are closed-minded about it. Like you start to try to have a conversation about that kind of stuff, and they have this very thin layer that they're willing to talk about, and then they don't want to go any deeper. And that's sad to me. Like there's a lot of fun stuff that you can learn and you can talk about, and it helps make sense and predict, what's going to happen given what you're doing. And I think that those people are missing out. So that it's more of like a sad thing. And every once in a while it's annoying. Like if you hear like codom, I heard that so much for so long, that was annoying, but it's gotten better over the years. but yeah, it's mostly I'm happy that at least people are interested somewhat in learning some genetics, especially when they're willing to have a longer conversation about it. I like that.
Yeah, because for anybody that does still use codom, as far as I know, there are no codominant traits in reptiles.
Not
Right.
that I've seen.
I mean, if you want to see codominance, go look at a red and white cow. That's about as close as you're gonna get. Like that's codominance, because you get mixed red, mixed white. You get red and white, but you don't
Instead
get that
of pink.
Yeah, there's no such. I have to tell my kids every year, there's no such thing as a pink cow, and that's not where strawberry milk comes from.
Oh gosh, way to crush hopes and dreams.
I've had kids who thought that chocolate milk came from brown cows.
No.
Fucking dead serious.
Are you
These
serious?
are high school kids.
How old
Oh.
did you say? High school age?
Yes.
I've met grown-ups that think that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. They grow up and they're still stupid. Anyways, one thing I do want to bring up. So you're starting to do panther chameleon locale stuff, right? The Reddy's
Yes.
had in the chat. We're about to get our first panther chameleon soon, but that'd be very interesting.
Yeah, the really cool thing with panther chameleons is they published a paper a few years back where they went on in locality in the wild, and they collected, I think it was like 320 or 340 panther chameleons. They took a picture so you could see the coloration, and then they took a DNA sample and sequenced all these 300 and blah blah blah, so they know where they're from and what they look like, and they know some genetic information. And so that's made it so that we will be able to have a really good test for locality in panther chameleons. We have there's one that's kind of okay, kind of following what's already been published, but we are working on not only with panther chameleons but other species as well, to have an identity test where we would have hundreds to thousands of markers. It's the exact same thing they do in forensics. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Golden State Killer, the serial
Yeah.
killer that got caught.
Yeah.
So they use this exact same thing. They're able to use these variable markers in humans, and they were able to get a familial match and then figure out who the Golden State Killer was from that. So this would be using that exact same technology, and in our reptiles, we would be able to use, like I said, hundreds to thousands. The one we're the furthest on is the ball python, because we have lots more sheds from ball pythons, but we have 10,000 variable markers that we can get from what we call low pass whole genome sequencing. And so we can tell individuals apart. We can do paternity testing. We could say, okay, did this animal really come from this specific sire, this ancestry? There's a lot of cool inbreeding depression. If you're choosing which male that you wanted to keep as a breeder, you could see which one had less inbreeding depression or inbreeding coefficient. So there's a lot of cool things we can do.
That's so
But
crazy. that you
specifically
can
with
do
the
all
panther
this.
chameleons, that's what's most interesting right now would be that locality test, and it's on the way.
Good. That means once I get my panther
I was
chameleon
just
from
going
the
to say,
Reddies,
we're fixing to start collecting and saving
I
their
can
sheds.
test it, and if it's not a Sembava, I can ask for a refund.
No, sir.
That part I can't help you with, but I can do the locale test.
Let's say Lee said, I'm very interested to see how that goes. I'm getting sheds saved up. Yeah, he's got
That
it.
might be Amanda. That might not be Lee.
No, Amanda normally posts as Amanda,
Oh, she does. You're right. You're right.
but they've got
Good.
enough panther chameleons. They'll be able to get you plenty of samples, and they've got 3 or 4 or 5 different locales at this point, I think. So
Yeah, and Jonathan Hill spearheaded that. He did an awesome job, got people excited and got money in, and we were able to get, like I said, an okay test that's a very rudimentary one. But then I started to get connections with larger genomics centers, things like that, and figured out we'd be able to, with some more work, have a really, really, really good test. And so they're being patient with me so far. I know it's been a while. I think it's been over a year since they got money together and we started working on it. But that, along with Madagascar boas, to be able to tell crosses between ground boas and Dumeril's boas. Those were the first 2 where keepers were the ones that were excited to develop a test and contacted me, and I worked with them. And so those 2 projects they've been working, waiting on for a while, but they are coming. They're still in sequencing, and then I hope within the next month or two we'll be analyzing and have a really, really good test sometime in the summer. And then another one is indigo snakes. So there's indigo keepers that have got sheds together, sent them in. So we will have a really, really kick butt identity test for indigo snakes as well.
That's cool.
Really cool.
I'm willing to bet, and I think we talked about this last time, but I'm willing to bet when you start doing the ground boas and the Madagascar boas or the Dumerals boas, you're going to find a lot of mixed blood in what people think are Dumerals boas.
And that's what people are concerned about and really interested in having that test. So
Definitely
some of the
interested in that.
samples that I got are animals that are still alive that are over 40 years old. It's really cool.
Well, it's just, I got to imagine for a long time, people were just importing what they thought were Dumerals boas. And if you don't know, they do look fairly similar. And so generally in the hobby, they were getting them. And if you have one, you got another one, they were just breeding whatever they got. And so I've got to feel there's a lot of Madagascan ground boa blood mixed in there. The Reddies also said East Coast locales are starting to be seen as not finding much difference. Correct. They're asking, do you know, on the Panthers?
So the little bit of testing that we did, I would want to do more to know for sure. I would say the little bit of testing we've done so far is not conclusive. And so I definitely want to get, we're looking at, I don't know, 300. Well, I guess it was about 1,500 base pairs of sequence for that rudimentary test. We'll be looking at like 1.5 million base pairs of information with this new test. So
it's only a few.
It's a completely different ballgame. It's like the paradigm shifts we see in society and technology. This will be such a better test that it's kind of ridiculous to even think about the other one.
So out of curiosity, from like the moment you get the shed to the time you have results, what is the duration of that?
It depends on what kind of test we're doing. So for sex determination, where it's a really simple test, if I go out, I've got baby Hondurans hatching out, I see a shed skin. If I wanted that information right away, I could take that in, explode the cells in the shed, get the DNA out, run a PCR, and then run it out on a gel. And so that would be, I don't know, 3-4 hours if I just did it straight.
And you do it all right there yourself?
I can. Right now we are set up where sheds are going to Texas, where some of the prep work is done, and then coming to Virginia, and I'm doing the final work on them. But yeah, for a simple test like that, I can do it, pretty quick and easy. I've been doing this for over 20 years, so it's like breathing for me. But for like these identity tests, we really, to be able to make it cost effective, we have to be putting them in gigantic runs where they're sequencing billions and billions and billions of base pairs. So right now, like the machine we would need to do that, it's like a $1 to $2 million machine. And we don't have the kind of volume to feed it. So right now we would have to, I would get that shed in.
Just get a GoFundMe for that.
Explode the cells, get the DNA, and send it to that.
Do not laugh at me.
Center.
What, I'm going to laugh at you.
When you say sequencing, what does that look like? What does sequencing look like? Like, what is that?
Sequences, like what you put on a dress, sequence?
I'm going to throat punch you.
No, it's a good question. And sometimes that's difficult for me because I've been thinking about this for so long that, I forget.
Because in my head,
the first time you hear it.
Yeah, in my head, I see you in this like little workshop with this little spinny thing over here and like vials of shit. And that's okay. So I don't know. That's what I'm asking for. One listener out there is laughing and agreeing with me. Okay.
Oh, no, I bet it's more than one. I bet it's more than one. Somebody told me they listened to that first podcast or YouTube video that we did that will turn into a podcast. but he said that he listened to it with some of his workers, and they're like, "What is he talking about?" So yeah, I need to do a
understood
better
it.
job of. And my 15-year-old, she told me, she's like, "I only listened to like 10 minutes because then I didn't know what you were talking about."
I
If it makes
understood
you
all of
feel better, I've been with this one for 18 years and I still only hear like half of what he tells me when he starts talking about genetics. And
So-
poor Travis Wyman, he tries, bless his heart. Like,
my favorite way to help people conceptualize it is, and it helps if you're a little older, if you're over 30, especially if you're over 40, you think about a set of encyclopedias,
okay.
or if you think about it as
Those are
like,
those things you use to hold the lid down when your snake's inside a glass.
there you go. So if you think of each, like, if you had all the instructions to make a human, and to be able to break that into books so that you could pick out a book and read how to make a human, you would have 46 books. You have 23 from the mom, 23 from the dad. So you have, those are chromosomes. So we have 46 chromosomes in humans. So we have these, if you think about it as 46 separate books, you got 23 that came from the dad, 23 that came from the mom. You use all 46 of those to make this human. And so when you open one of those books, you go to a chromosome, you open that book, you go to a page. So that could be like a gene. So that page is a gene, and that gene has a role. It might be to cause, more melanocytes to be deposited on the skin. So it makes it a darker snake. So if you go to that one page where that one gene is, then you look at it and it has letters that spell out what to do. Those letters are only 4 different letters: A, T, C, and G. And so
Right.
what I'm doing when I sequence is I'm actually telling, I have these small pieces of sequence that are unique that tell the enzyme, it's called a polymerase, that copies. You could think of it as like a Xerox machine. I'm telling, with these primers, I'm telling the copy machine, I'm telling it what book to go to, what page, and I'm saying copy that page a whole bunch of times so that I can actually visually see it. If I only have one piece of DNA, you'd have to have a really, really sensitive machine to be able to see what's there. But if I can amplify up hundreds of thousands of copies, then I can pick it up on a less sensitive machine. And so most sequencing machines, you need to amplify that signal so that you can actually read the A's, T's, C's, and G's. So I'm literally, when I do that sequencing, I'll be looking at, like for hypo, I'm looking at the gene that has an effect on how much melanin is deposited in the skin, how dark that animal is going to be. And then I'm actually looking at the code that's telling that embryo how to become a ball python and where that pigment should go. That information is messed up so that it's not normal. It's sending less black pigment to the skin because of these A's, T's, C's, and G's that got changed. So there's some of them that aren't there that usually are there. And that's what made it hypomelanistic.
You're following everything coming out of his mouth, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm struggling so hard right now.
I teach genetics.
I know you do. I still like, in my head, I'm still like, you're at this desk and you've got like all these microscopes and
So are you running gels on just sex determination stuff? Is that going? Are you running gels on? You're not running gels on everything, are you?
No, I do very little gel stuff. As long, the name of the game with sequencing now is if you have enough volume, it's actually amazingly cheap compared to what it used to be.
Yeah.
So as long as I have enough things coming through, it's not really worth running something on a gel when I can just put it into a run and get the information back as a sequence.
so your sequence, obviously you don't like look at something under a microscope and see all these little letters.
It says A on
like,
DNA.
you don't, that's not how it works.
So-
I'm aware that that's not how it works.
A's are red.
Okay, I'm not a
T's are
completely
yellow.
hopeless cause here, but I mean, I assume each one looks different,
yeah, so they're
and
different.
then you're having to write down the
Well,
code.
The machine is.
The machine does it for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
So what
okay.
they've done is they make the bases, the A's, T's, C's, and G's. they make them so there's a different color on each one. Like we were just kind of joking, they're different colors you can see. Well, they literally make it so that when you're amplifying it up, when it puts an A in, it does have a color that's different than T, C, and G.
That's why the model you have is color coded.
Well, yeah, but it's also color coded so you can tell the difference.
Yeah.
And then the sequencing machine sees those colors, and so it'll just spit out the sequence for me. I don't write it down. You used to have 4 separate lanes for each sequence, one for A, one for T, one for C, one for G. So to run one sequence, you had to look at 4 lanes, and you'd see a band here, 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 and you'd have to go down and write down, okay, that's an A, T, T, C, A, C. You'd have to go down and write it from the banding. But now we have the sequencing machines that just read those colors, and it just spits that out for you. So
like when you watch NCIS and the lab tech puts DNA in the machine and it tells them.
Yeah, obviously that's all fake. I'm fully aware it's television.
It's not all fake. It's based in reality.
It's a lot faster than reality.
Obviously. So, for example, like with a human, there's 46. Like that's kind of the magic number.
Well, it's not magic. It's just the number.
It's the number. But I guess how long is it sequence? Like, are we talking like each sequence has 30?
Oh, no.
Like.
So the chromosomes in snakes, some of the ones I've been working on, you're talking millions of base pairs. So like 60 million base pairs, 150 million base pairs. That would be like the size of a chromosome. So there's a lot of information there, and then there's
in just
all
one
the chromosome. Yeah, so altogether, it's in most snakes, it's about 1.
Oh no, he froze again. We'll get him back.
This makes my head hurt a little bit.
So like,
it's so much information.
Give me an idea. So your DNA codes for making proteins in your body, right? Proteins can be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of amino acids long. Every amino acid is 3 bases on your DNA. So that's those times 3. It's a lot. There's a lot of your DNA is massive.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
So yeah,
and it's all
and it's crazy
up.
Every time I try to learn about it. Like every time it's the same. Oh,
like
Lord.
when you see a chromosome spread, a karyotype, when people are showing, how many chromosomes are in a cell, you may have come across that at some point. That's the time when all the DNA, most of the time the DNA in the nucleus is all kind of like
spaghetti.
This big spaghetti. Yeah. And then when you do the chromosome spread, you try to get it when they're all hypercoiled. And so it's all folded and spun, and there's these little proteins that their job is to help fold that DNA. So it's really small. And then you get, these like the X's and Y, the karyotype looking chromosomes, but most of the time they're unfolded and kind of everywhere, so that sequence can be read by all the different molecules that are floating around in the nucleus to make proteins and things like that from the code.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
That's why it's fun. There's a protein.
That's why it's fun
because like a lot of your proteins are massive, but there's a protein in Gila monster venom that's like 20 amino acids long. It's like super small, which I think is really neat. That it's in Gila monster.
You're such a nerd.
It's super small because you're usually talking about massive proteins. Shut up. That's cool.
I love how excited you are, though.
Cool thing. Anyway,
thank you for explaining.
So I'm hoping this summer I'm trying to get an internship.
I wondered if you were going to bring that up.
I'm trying to get an internship at the University of Houston. They're doing one for teachers in the genetics lab.
We need all the positive vibes. He turned in his application today.
So I'm trying, hopefully they'll get to go in there and do like actual genetics work, whatever they're working on with their staff and with their like grad students.
And it's like a 5-day a week all summer.
And it pays well. So
nice.
It does.
I'm also looking forward
to it is
to
a beautiful paid internship.
That would be nice as well. But yeah, I'm super excited about doing actual genetics work.
That'd be fun.
And your cover letter looks really damn good now.
Yep. And then I can tell all the
if
people,
I do say so myself.
all those ball python bros when they're at shows talking about genetics, like, you don't know shit. I was in a lab. I had a lab coat.
I've used a pipetter.
Yeah. I measured out things in micro shit.
My God.
That's an official measurement.
It's an industry term.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know because you weren't there.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
I definitely know what a microliter looks like and what 10 microliters looks like. I know I've looked at those little tiny volumes thousands and thousands of times over the last 20 years.
And then he spun them around in your little spinning machine.
Shut up.
Oh yeah, lots of centrifuges.
Look, other people out there were thinking it. Okay,
They're
I'm not alone.
little spinning machines. So also you are working, I think, on blue tongue skinks. Was that one I heard?
Yeah, I haven't been able to get that to work yet. But yeah, sex determination for blue tongues and Agurnia, some of the other skinks that are fairly closely related. I don't have it working yet, but that is another one I'm hoping we'll have sometime in the summer.
That's the good thing about panthers. You don't need to do sex determination on panther chameleons.
You'd be surprised. Some people do want it, but I mean, I would imagine from the little bit that I know about panthers, once they're adults, I think most people could tell. But yeah, for babies when they're born, that there might be some use for a sex determination test, but the locality seems much more interesting for people.
So one that I'm interested, we had 2 weeks ago, we had Bill Stiegel on and talked about green tree pythons. And I know at one point people were getting DNA testing for sex determination in green trees. And he said that I've heard that it's basically no one's doing that right now. What's the status on that? Are you trying to work towards that or?
Yeah. So that was the main test. Sean Christian is my partner with Rare Genetics Inc. And we had been friends online since mid 2000s, something like that. But in 2011, we met at the reptile show in Tinley for the first time in person. And we started talking about potentially creating a business and having some kind of genetic testing. And that's the one that we both wanted. We both had lots of carpet pythons and had kept green trees here and there. But loved green trees and knew that would be really helpful for keepers. So I really wanted to figure something out that would work, and I did. And for a while, the way, like I was saying, to be able to do sequencing, you kind of have to have things go in batches. Otherwise, it's super expensive. And so I figured out a way I could batch some green tree python samples. And it was complicated because what I was doing is sequencing part of the sex chromosomes. And so I had, if you had a clutch of babies, I needed to get sequence from the sire of those babies and the paternal grandsire or a male offspring from that same sire that you knew 100% sure was a male, because I had to track some of the markers on the male sex chromosome, the Y. I had to see it in the sire, and then either it's sire before it, the paternal grandsire, or an offspring from it that you knew was male. That way I knew which markers were the male markers.
And that's tricky for somebody to try and get all that from lineage wise.
Yeah. So there were breeders like Bill. I did several for Bill over a couple of years, and it worked great. But it was very labor intensive. I definitely was making no money from it. It was a lot of analysis and had to be batched a certain way. And when we scaled up with Rare Genetics Inc. to where we are now, it just made it so that I couldn't do that same kind of a run anymore. So what we will have once we get it working, we will have a single shed test like we do for colubrids and ball pythons.
That'd be huge.
You can just send in any green tree python shed and we'll be able to tell sex. So I've had 2 or 3 tests, or 4 or 5 by this point. It's been really frustrating where it worked on some. So for publications, if you can get it to work on 4 or 5, then you can, get a publication and everything looks great. But to have a test for customers, I need it to work on like 200 that are unrelated from several different customers to make sure it works properly. Otherwise, I'm not going to sell it.
It's going to be hard to sell. Someone go, it may be a work.
So I've had at least 5 different tests that worked some of the time on some samples. But when I stretched that out and ran, a batch of 50 that I know which ones are males and females, then it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work consistently. So it's just not quite there yet. I know I'm in the right spot. So out of those 1.5 billion base pairs, I've got that narrowed down to 100,000 or a couple 100,000. So I'm getting close, and we definitely have spent probably out of all the tests that we are working on right now that aren't working yet, that's the one we've spent the most time and the most money on that's still not working.
Well, and for those out there that don't understand why sex determination, some things are more important than others. So you don't really need a sex determination in sand boas. We can pretty much sex those with our thumb in about 0.2 seconds. But we talked with green trees, we talked with Bill, you can't really sex baby green trees. It's so sensitive that you have to wait till they're adults. And even in adults, it can be tricky. And so that's a tricky. And then blue tongues, up until now, it's been what? X-rays has been the one way to tell if it's a male or female. So it'd be amazing if you could do just a simple genetic DNA test. So you don't have to put two males together and then come back with one male after it killed the other male like that. Or at this point, it'd be one male killing a female, and that's just called breeding. But still, so sex determination in some of these things are really tricky, and it'd be really important to see, you know. And ball pythons, I mean, a lot of people can sex their ball python. There are some that are trickier, but it's definitely harder in blue tongue skinks and green tree pythons, and probably some of the colubrids even.
Yeah, there's some colubrids that are pretty tough. Some of them are not hard at all, but a lot of people find it nice to not have to set up an appointment with a vet, or go into a pet store and make friends and get to where someone will pop for them, or figure out, out in the parking lot at a show, they'd rather just, pay $20 and send a shed in that they were going to throw in the garbage anyway,
Yeah, because it's different for someone like for myself or Robert. Like, we go to show, we have tons of friends, we can do it ourselves. We can find someone. You don't think about the one person who bought one snake at a PetSmart and they want to know, is it princess whatever or is it a boy? Like,
so this would be really cool for us to do with my corn snake in my classroom.
Yep.
I know you can, but like, because obviously we know it's a female, but you said that you could do some genetic markers with corn snakes.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
But we know nothing about her.
No, but he can do sex determination.
Oh.
You're not doing.
Yeah, if you're wanting to do morph stuff, you have to wait a little bit for corn snakes.
Gotcha.
We don't have morphs yet, but we definitely want to do that. And each species we do it in should get easier.
Yeah, I mean, that would be kind of cool to be able to like send off something for the zoology club and be like, look at what this company does.
Well, for anybody that hasn't listened to Ben's most recent, his first episode on YouTube, which you should go give it a listen. You talked about customers finding out that some of their stuff was more than what they thought it was. They found that genes in there that they didn't even know were in that snake.
Yeah. The one example I gave was one I got an email. I get these emails every week. That's really fun to hear these stories. But the one this past week, he said that he sent a shed in and he wanted to know whether it was gravel or yellow belly, but he figured he'd pay a little bit more and just run our panel for all of the morphs that we could do. And he ended up finding out it was het pied. And so that made that animal worth quite a bit more. And he talked to the breeder he bought it from and found out a couple generations back there was a possibility, a small percentage chance of there being a het pied. And so now that breeder's excited because a lot of his clown project, those animals are now pos het pied and potentially worth quite a bit more money as well.
That's just, yeah.
Well,
she was the corn snake that I have in my classroom. She was a surrendered pet that was brought to the zoo where we worked at the zoo, and the education department was like, we already have enough of these. Here, you take her. And then she went to live in my classroom after that.
Well, corn snakes would be interesting because I'm willing to bet 99% of them are het albino. Like, at this point, it would be way more fun. It would be way more fun to go to PetSmart, buy a corn snake, and send a shed in and go, what the fuck's in this? Because those things come from big breeders. Like when they're doing bulk, I mean, there's like 6 genes in there. You just have no clue what it is. So that would just be fun for shits and giggles to see what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of how I feel about Luna. I'm just like, because people ask me all the time, and they're like, oh, what kind of corn snake is her? Is she? I'm like, she's corn snake.
She's hypo something.
That's what I got. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I know that just based on her color, but that's all I got.
So what I would like to work toward, I don't know how familiar you are with genetic testing in like cats. So they have genetic tests that kind of tell you, like what ancestry. There's like these 4 or 5 main, lines of these captive cats that we have now, house cats. So I would love for there to be something like that with corn snakes, with milk snakes, with king snakes, and like in green tree pythons, it would be, either locality or lineages from a famous blue animal 3 generations back or whatever. So that would be like this corn snake you have in your classroom. 5 years from now, something like that. Hopefully we have a cool test. You could send that in and be like, okay, this says,
Do it.
this is related to one of the ones that the Loves worked with
That'd be cool.
that sired, 50
That
clutches.
is so.
you
That
know,
would be
we
really
would have
cool.
some connections. We
We're
have to build those
creating a
connections.
massive family tree, basically, of snakes.
Yes. Yeah, and we'd be able to tell you, hey, the great great grandsire to your baby was this one, and this is, that's one of the ones that was a two-headed snake that's at this zoo. Or, we'd be able to make connections. It would be pretty fun.
That's pretty neat. That isn't it. That is a really cool. Way
I would
look
love
at
to
it all.
see tests done on my brain's gonna blank. What are the king snakes out west? You know the one I'm talking about.
Desert Kings.
No, the people go shit.
Gray bands.
Gray band. Yeah.
Oh,
I
gray
would love
bands.
you to do one on gray bands just so you go, they're all the fucking same. Get over it. Just all the DNA testing, realize it doesn't matter what rock you found it next to. It's the fucking same.
Your fucking rubber boas?
What?
Aren't they all different?
No, they're the same. They're locales.
But that's another locale. The rubber boas.
Technically everything's a locale, but it's
But
some of them are treated as if they are so much more different.
like that one snake that
Another
only is
locale.
found on that one lake or whatever.
What?
Oh,
Oh.
it's a garter snake or something.
Yeah. The one out in California that was it red-sided, what is the expensive
Sertalis, probably red-sided.
red-sided garters? The one that's protected, right?
Yeah, they're
It's only found
protected.
in one spot in California or whatever.
Oh, then it's probably a subspecies. Then I would guess.
I don't know. It's a garter. They shit a lot and eat fish and insects, and they're
I could see where people who are really interested in like ancestry and things like that could really get
Or
a
some
kick out of being able to.
Also, like, Jeff Frederick, who is the one that designed our awesome logo, said for colubrids like Ramphiophis or the beak snakes, it's not safe to probe or pop them. So DNA testing is a must for those guys.
That's cool
Yes.
to know.
Yeah, and they're not colubrids. Ramphiophis, if I remember right, it's actually outside. I think they're Lampriphiidae, or I don't know. It's been a long time since I was in herb class. I'm probably saying that wrong. Lampriphiidae, something like that. So the sex tests that I've played with, sometimes they worked for Ramphiophis okay, and then other times it just didn't seem. So it's kind of like that Ramphiophis right now is kind of in the same boat as the tricolored hognose. Sometimes some of my tests will work, and sometimes they don't. But that's one that if there was a lot more people working with it, then I'd be able to spend some time on it. But
So at that point, you just adjust your test and make tweaks to your test to try to get it to work in the future.
yeah, it takes time and money. So if there's enough people, enough interest, then I can figure out a way to spend the time. And sometimes, like right now, as we've talked about today, there's a lot of balls in the air that I'm juggling, a lot of different tests that I want to do. So
I can't even imagine.
I kind of have to attack them, the ones that I feel like are the coolest, and also will help us be able to bring money in to be able to develop more tests.
Right. No, that makes complete sense.
It'd be interesting to see if you could do bearded dragons at some point, locale wise. Just because I have a feeling at this point in the United States, everything's a mutt. It'd be interesting if you could get sheds from actual locales in Australia and see how much we've mixed everything here.
Yeah, that would be cool. I haven't looked at the literature on beardies, but yeah, through zoos, connections with zoos and academic people, we can usually get locality sheds that would have locality information with them. So
That kind of
it'd be
cool.
fun. Those are the kinds of things that I've been thinking about every day since 2011.
That's so crazy.
So I want to go. The question that you gave me this week, we had a bajillion people answer this one. The minute we put it up, it was just like left and right. This is, what is your most powerful memory of a herp-related experience? It can be field herping, zoo, or captive keeping or breeding. I don't think I'll be able to read all of them, but I'll go through some of them.
Have a good one.
Ashley Howdy, a friend over at Focus Cube, said in the mid 1990s, looking down through my upstairs room window after my dad showed up in his police car holding a giant green iguana, he chased through Memorial Park in Houston.
Wow.
So that's a pretty good one. Our friend Victor said, I've always loved going to the Bronx Zoo as a child, then sharing that experience with his children. That's always a fun one, being able to, what was amazing for you as a kid, and then go back to show your kids.
Yeah.
Robert, yours was pretty good. You want to give yours?
Yeah. I was on my first solo bow hunting trip to South Texas, and 1997, and I was trying to crawl up on some javelina because they're blind and stupid, and there was I was in a sendero, which is just another word for a dirt road in South Texas, and I was crawling in. There was a little hill between me and that I was using as cover between me and the javelina, and I came over the top of the hill, and laying across the road 5 feet in front of me was a giant indigo, Texas indigo. So the javelina hunt was over because the indigo scared the shit out of me because it was just boom, snake in front of my face. And so I ended up getting up and getting my camera out and taking pictures of the indigo. I have them somewhere still, and
awesome.
Hanging out with him for probably 10 minutes. And then it finally, I say him, it was, I don't know. And
if you had the testing, you could have.
Right. And then it took off into the brush. And then I walked down the road about 20 yards and a javelina stepped out in front of me and I shot it. I was like, hey, worked out.
That's so funny.
That was Lee Reddy's. He said it's seeing 3 Texas indigo snakes in a line on his dad's property as a kid. He was amazed at their size and how calm they were just crossing a path.
Mm-hmm. They don't have anything to fear.
Yeah. They're, as far as snakes go, they're an apex predator.
Yeah. They don't have much to fear.
Hawks
and bobcats and yeah.
But yeah, it's far. What?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Oh, okay. Louis Patoe said, I have a ton, but the one that comes to mind is finding his first Alterna after 10 years of looking, which that would be fun. I would love to go see something like that in the wild.
Yeah.
What was the question again? Read it again.
It was, what is your most powerful memory of herp-related experience or of a herp-related experience? Can be field herping, zoo, or captive keeping and breeding.
I have 2.
Okay.
That are really my only 2 because they were both before you, and I don't have a lot of reptile related memories prior to you coming into my life. But I can remember being in high school. My dad, where we lived in Alabama, he worked with Auburn University to have Eastern indigos released on his hunting camp property.
Wow.
He was the president at the camp at the time, and when he would give tours, I used to go with him. The new members would get the tour and he'd go in the barn and he'd be like, and my dad, I thought he hated snakes. He never killed them, but he made it very clear he was not a fan. But he would go into the feeder barn where they kept all the feed and everything. And he'd be like, all right, he had everything was named. And there was a corn snake that lived up on this side. And he was and then there was a rat snake that lived back here. And he was like, don't kill my snakes. They keep the mice out of my barn. And then he'd and if you see this, and he had posters that he would give people who's don't touch these if you see them in the woods. Cause it was part of with Auburn University. I can remember that. I can remember a black rat snake got into our house one night in South Alabama. And I remember him taking paneling off the wall because it crawled through the hole where the socket goes.
Yeah.
Got into the wall. And I remember him moving this massive deep freezer away from the wall and literally ripping paneling off the wall to get the snake out of the wall before he would go to bed that night because it wasn't staying in the house. And then he took it out and he let it lived. He never killed any of them. He just did not like them. And then when I was a senior in high school, where I lived in Mobile, the city has representatives. They're high school seniors. There's girls. There's 50 that represent the city. They're called Mobile Azalea Trail Maids. If you look them up, they wear large antebellum dresses that look like cupcakes. And I was in the Macy's parade and I got to meet Jeff Corwin. He was on the float in front of us in the parade. And so 2 floats in front of us was Aaron Carter.
No one cares.
Every other girl,
gross,
17-year-old girl, was freaking out. And then my friend Claire and we went to the same school. I was like, is that Jeff Corwin from Animal Planet? And she was like, oh my gosh, I think it
Not
is.
just Animal Planet. He was originally from Disney.
Well, we knew him from Animal Planet. And so we walked up, I'm like, come on, we're going to talk to him. It's 5 a.m. We're in line for the Macy's parade. And all he wanted to do was talk about our dresses. And all we wanted to do was talk about his adventures he'd been on. It was so funny. We were both just enamored with each other. But he was such an awesome guy to meet. And I remember thinking, he's a normal guy. You see him on TV and you think, because he was big in the hobby. I mean, he still is. But he's big in the reptile community and world. And so that was really cool. But yeah, those are the the 3 things I really remember before you came along.
Before I came along.
Well, I mean, then there's just, it's always been reptiles
Go
after
through
that.
a few more
so.
of these. Our buddy Drew Schultz said he worked at a water park and he trained alligators. He had 6 alligators. He trained on the queue to go in and out.
That's fun.
That's cool. Our friend Megan said snorkeling in Cozumel with green sea turtles. Did you lose your shit over that, Katie?
Oh my
That would be
God.
awesome.
I couldn't. I would be a sobbing hot mess. I couldn't do it.
I could take you out to find sea turtles right here.
I know. It's, oh God.
Our friend Beckett said swimming with manta rays. Not a reptile, but still cool.
I want to swim with manatees.
Okay. Our buddy Ryan Cox said
Sorry.
it was his grandma and mom taking him to some shitty roadside zoo around Lake Placid. There says there's no Betty White.
Sad day.
But they did let a kid who was way too small play with a boa constrictor and a huge water monitor. And it's all been downhill since then.
That's hilarious.
Our buddy Paul Byfield said his first clutch of eggs, which was like what
Last year.
last year. Yeah, that's a big one. And then you chimed in. That was big there. Let's see. Angel said probably my first snake bite. I'll pass on those. I've tried to forget any of those.
I've only ever had one.
Snake bite.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I didn't even know it happened. I was giving a presentation for the zoo. It was when I was in the education department at the zoo.
Oh, yeah.
I was at an elementary school with a bunch of kindergartners. And the way I was holding the corn snake is her head was like up wrapped around my upper arm. And I had the bottom half of her so they could touch. And her head was tucked under my arm. And one of the kids was like, Miss Katie, you're bleeding. And I looked down and there's 2 little pinpricks on the inside of my arm. And I'm like, oh, it's okay. We're all okay. Like, I have no clue when it happened or anything.
Let's see. Aaron King said there was a documentary on VHS
Nice.
as a 5-year-old. When he found a YouTube link to that National Geographic Reptiles and Amphibians from 1989, maybe. It's
Oh, damn.
Todd Autry said he saw a National Geographic special called "The Animals Nobody Loved" in 1977.
We're going to have to look that one up. That sounds
He
fun.
said he already loved snakes at that point of his life, and so the show sticks with him to this day. Trying to go through some of the other ones. There was so many. Everybody wanted to tell us all theirs. There were so many. Oh, Scott Borden said getting to work a huge adult bushmaster in Costa Rica.
That would be awesome.
That would be cool.
Oh, man.
Let's see. This Todd Sanders said the first time they went to NARBC, driving all the way to NARBC. That's always a fun one, especially if people have never been to a big reptile show, going to something like Denny. I remember my first time going to. You went to Daytona with me for the first time, right, Katie?
Mm-hmm.
And so our first time going to Daytona, that was back in mid 2000s when it was
We were still dating.
massive.
That was before we got married.
Let's see. Kim Anderson said the one time I was catching a small alligator, Ken's son released in the Galapagos tortoise paddock. Okay. Why would you release it? That seems like a weird place to release one. Trying to go through, but man, there were so many. I'm sorry if I don't get everybody's, but go check them out. There's a lot of really good ones. Easton Horton said, pretty recent memory, but my favorite in 2018, I got to witness the Turtle Conservancy in Alabama dig a nest of sea turtles that had already had a majority hatch out, and he helped 4 baby loggerheads out of the nest.
Very cool.
That would be really cool to do.
I'd probably cry the whole time I was doing that too.
Although I also would rather.
Let's just go ahead and throw that out there.
I would love to see a big loggerhead.
I just want to go sit on the beach and watch the babies go into the ocean.
Or
That's
like
all I want to do.
or like a leatherback. Big
Somebody
leatherback.
make that dream come true for me.
We know someone who does that.
I know.
We've had them on the show.
So make it happen, James.
I'll reach out to her.
That's like an anniversary gift for the ages, okay?
I'll talk to her. My problem is I have so many. I don't know.
You have a lot of
getting my
memories.
first job at the zoo. There were a lot of things where, like, I'm going to say now, I was not trained to do that I had to do. Like having to catch a gaboon viper for injections. There's no like training class that I took for that. That was just like, all right, you have to do this. And then I'm like, all right,
Don't get bit.
what's everything I've seen Steve Irwin do? Let's figure this shit out.
Did you say what a little beauty?
What a little beauty, and shove my finger in its asshole. No, but I mean, yeah, put it in a tube, and then once you put hands on it, you're like, I'm fucking holding something that could kill me. And I didn't.
Powerful animal.
But I think those things huff and puff, and it will make you pucker. It's having a big ass American croc come at me, having a Nile croc come at me. That was interesting.
You punched your boss in the face one time.
That was on accident. We were trying to catch an alligator and I accidentally punched him in the face while I was reaching for it. But that's fine. he forgave me. Getting to be around stuff like giant Aldabra tortoises, and not everybody gets to be around 500-pound Aldabra tortoises and pet them and play with them every day. Like that's fun. But then as like a kid, I remember like our first boa. I remember getting it at a pet store the size of a, it looks like a little pencil.
Right.
Walking around a store and people being afraid of me and this small itty bitty snake and like running to other aisles to get away from us. I remember stuff like that. But yeah, there's just a ton. I don't know. Making bad decisions by buying my first snake and it being a Brazilian rainbow boa. That was a horrible idea. I mean, he lived to be like 17 years old. Yeah, don't do that. That should not be your first snake.
Yeah.
What about you, Ben? What are the big moments for you?
The biggest one for me, I've learned over time just how much of a breeder at heart I am. Everyone I think has a mix of keeper and breeder and different parts of having, being around these animals. Collector, I guess it's another one. Some people are collectors. But yeah, I mean, I remember my wife talking about, getting a dog. I was like, well, why don't we get two and breed them? Like, it's just how I think. You don't have one of something, you have at least a male and a female. But so yeah, the most powerful for me was in 2003. I guess 2002, I bred a pair of ball pythons and a pair of common boas. And then 2003, the babies were born and those eggs came. I had a little, the little chicken egg incubators, what did they call those things?
Hovabators?
Yeah, hovabators. At hovabator, I had, this styrofoam to make it a little taller. And I checked that all the time, probably 20 times a day. And I didn't know anything about, cutting eggs early or anything. So it was all, naturally seeing them. Well, I guess in an incubator is artificial, but they're slit their eggs on their own and just that was such an amazing experience. And then the boas was
so much
about
fun.
A month or two later. I actually got to a point where I couldn't keep the boas where I was, and they were at my friend's dad's house. It was like a 5-minute drive, not bad. But I knew they were close. And so for about 2.5 weeks, every morning and every night, I would drive over there and walk in. I'd go down in the basement, go in, open it up, look at it. Nope, they're not here. They're not here. And then I remember one day I walked in, I opened the door. This is like,
oh no, he froze again.
Sad day.
He'll be back and then he'll be able to tell us what it was like.
looks like I lost you.
Oh,
there
we're
we
back.
go.
So you open the door.
You open the door.
I opened the door. There's the smell. I was like, oh, I've never smelled that before. Maybe this is it. I start to walk closer, and she had a hide box in there that was just cardboard, and it was soaked.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is it. And so the ball pythons, I ended up getting 8 babies and no slugs. They're all perfectly healthy. The boas, I got 19 live, no stillbursts, no slugs. As far as like your first time breeding, I was pretty dang lucky, and I got a table at a show in Salt Lake City and sold babies there, and just I knew then that I had to keep doing that, and I've been hatching out babies every year since. I haven't done any other boas. That's the only boa litter I've ever had, but I've done a lot of pythons since then, and a few colubrids.
My first was 2007. I had my first rainbow boa litter. I remember that, and it was amazing. But I'm still like giddy every time I get eggs.
Every time
I get babies. I don't get eggs, but I do boas. But I mean, I scream like a little kid every time I see them.
Yeah.
And it always gets me the people that don't do boas because like it's gross. I'm like, fuck that. I love the giant pile of goo.
I'll play in that goo.
Oh, it's amazing. That's what we need. You know what? I need that on a shirt. A pile of baby boas says I'll play in that goo.
Let's see what I can make happen for you, baby.
Oh, I'm happy every time I see people that post those videos of babies coming, the gooey boa babies coming out. And like, oh, that's awesome.
I just saw somebody today in a group post their first litter of boas, and they were like, nobody told me it was going to be like this. I'm glad I took all the substrate out a couple days ago.
Oh yeah. I loved on Easter seeing all of our friends post pictures of like eggs they were finding in enclosures. Like they were like, this was the Easter egg hunt we went on today. And it was like, these lizards laid eggs and these snakes laid eggs. And I thought that was really cool.
It's a fun part of the year.
So yeah, but there were a lot of great answers. I apologize for anybody I skipped over. I didn't mean to, but there were a ton of great ones, and it gets hard, especially when you've done stuff with reptiles for so long. There's so many memories. Like I said, almost dying from a Nile crocodile sticks into my mind a lot. First time I had to jump on an alligator, like that's not training. That was just like, all right, you're the reptile keeper, so you take the head first. All right.
How big was it?
The first one I had to get, I think, first time I had to catch were Niles, and they weren't huge. They were 8 foot, 7 foot Niles.
If it's under 6 feet, I don't feel too bad. But anything over that, I'd be a little nervous.
I never had to catch anything big. We had to catch a whole bunch of like 4.5 foot American alligators, but American alligators are big old vaginas, so that's easy. You just jump on them and it's not a problem. The Niles were not happy. And then we'd catch smaller American crocs. They were not happy. But I never had to catch any of like the big stuff. Like we had a huge male American croc. We never had to catch him while I was there. Never had to catch big American alligators. But yeah, it literally was like, what did I see Steve Irwin do? I'm gonna do that. Except for the crazy stuff. I'm not gonna do that part. So, but oh look, the Reddies said one of our female panthers gave holy fucking shit.
33 eggs.
3 eggs.
Awesome.
Ew.
That's too many fucking eggs.
The thing that would kill, like literally probably kill me with chameleons is any incubation that's longer than 60 days.
Oh yeah.
I can't handle that. It'd break my heart.
That's why I like boas. They take care of all of that for me. I just show up and then there's babies. Now some of them take forever. Like rainbows will take like almost 6 months to have babies, but they do all the work.
And he's great into like month 5.
Yeah. Then I'm
And
checking them on like 7 times a day.
Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
If they ever lift their tail at all, I'm like, oh, here they come. And then nothing happens.
And I get these seasonal dreams when it's close.
Yes.
Like I haven't had any babies for a long time.
And then you hatch out something fucking weird or something weird is born. And then you wake up and go, oh no, it didn't happen.
Yeah. It's just like about a month before the first babies will start hatching or, being born. I just start having these dreams of I finally have babies again.
I've had dreams where like, I've dreamed that I had like a green rainbow boa. And then I wake up like, well, fuck, that was not real. So no, that happens. I want to go through some of the things that were over on our discussion group this week. There's some interesting. All right, so I posted a picture on our discussion group. A lot of people in our group have dirty minds.
Absolutely.
Your wife being one of them.
It was
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's a picture that says Dubai unveils plans for a $9 billion gold-plated diamond encrusted skyscraper.
Sex toy.
And it looks like the rattle of a rattlesnake, but so many people saw a penis. And I'm just
I didn't know. That's not at all what I saw because I'm like, if it looks like that, you've got some issues. But I didn't read the caption. I'm like, why is there a massive sex toy on our page? Like that's what
It's a rattle. It looks like a snake rattle. God. Dirty-minded people.
Oh, I've been reading too many trashy books.
And then we already talked about that. I'm not gonna talk. Lizard Brain. Oh, this week on Lizard Brain Radio, everybody go give Lizard Brain Radio a listen. Our friends, the Reddies, were on there, and you can also our friend Bill, who does Lizard Brain Radio.
Ago?
I don't know. It's fishing.
Yeah, it was Easter.
That's it. Was it?
Yeah, 2 nights ago.
And then Ryan Goslow posted something scientific. I'm gonna go past that for now. My dad wants me to get into white lip pythons because he found a pretty picture of a white lip python. No, sorry, that's not
I
happening.
think my favorite was Drew's. She was like, "Yeah, James, get on that."
Get right on that.
The people that do white lips have to really love them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on that.
Little buzz saws.
I posted a video. It was neat. It was these giant rats in Africa they used to find mines. They don't now listen before you. They don't let the rats run across the mines and blow up. That is not what they do.
So I've actually done quite a bit of research on this because I'm totally bringing it up with my zoology club kids when we start meeting again in 2 weeks. It's fascinating.
But what's funny is they're walking them on basically fishing poles.
They are. And so there's 2 different methods. What they do is they rope off the area in a grid.
Because these are areas where war has been really big and mines get left behind. And a lot of times innocent kids are walking through playing and they get blown up by mines.
Yeah.
So go find these things.
And so they have taken these rats.
Big ass rats.
That people think are just horrible. And they have taught them. And she was saying that it doesn't take very long to train them
Because they're
at
smart.
all.
Rats are smart.
And they basically, I mean, they treat these things like kings.
Well, and they don't weigh enough to set off the mine.
So they can walk over the mine without it
But
blowing
they can
up.
sniff out the mine.
And they actually, there's like when they stop, there's like a signal. So when they stop, they know. And basically, whoever has the fishing pole, or if it's on like a rope or whatever, then they put like a flag marker. And then when the day is done and it's clear, like teams come in and remove the live mines.
Wow.
It's really cool.
Big ass
I
rats.
am terrified of rats. I've read a book that our friend Megan actually recommended to me about pests. And it was basically, what do you consider to be a pest? And there's a whole chapter dedicated, obviously, to rats. And this was not mentioned in that book, though. And I kind of wish it was. It's very cool.
I just hope rats don't have power in the afterlife, or I'm gonna be in
Because
big
we've
trouble.
given them this. Yeah. It's,
You walk across this mine, motherfucker.
Because I've fed so many to snakes.
Yeah.
Our buddy David over at Eclectic Reptiles posted a picture of him hatching out one of his anoles, one of his really pretty anoles. Just thought that was cool. Watching it come, you watch it come out of the egg, it like changes colors coming out of the egg. It was kind of neat looking. See what else got. Let's see. I posted a video I found today. There's a guy gutting a gar that he had caught.
the little snake comes out of the
And this
wall.
little snake comes
I
out.
couldn't
It's
stop watching it.
The fucking snake's
cute.
just feeding it
Haven't
pieces of
seen that.
fish. It's hilarious.
Yeah,
So,
our
like,
friend Brittany at Repticulture actually just posted it on her Facebook too.
he comes out and first he grabs the gar's tail and he's like trying to pull the gar away from
Like
the guy.
this snake is literally like the size of my finger, if that.
So he just starts
And
feeding
this
it.
massive fish, he's thinking, I'm fixing to take it away.
So he
It's
starts
the
feeding it
cutest thing.
pieces of fish, and the snake just starts taking them off the little cutting board there and taking the pieces of fish as he's.
And when he was done, he was done. It was the cutest thing.
He didn't run away from the guy. The guy didn't use the knife to kill the snake.
Yeah. The guy didn't freak out when the snake came out of the wall.
So that was nice to see.
It was very wholesome.
It was.
It was nice with everything else that's been posted.
That's true. I think that's. Oh, I know the Reddies posted a picture. This is 6 days ago, but a picture of one of their Ambanja boys. They're chameleons. Go check that out. The Reddies chameleons. I think that's it. That's all I got on there.
I'm gonna have some cool stuff to post in a couple weeks.
With your chameleon.
Well, yes, with Jim, but I'm also, so we had to pause all of our zoology club meetings at school because of state testing and because there's tutoring on the days that we were meeting. And I didn't want the kids to have to choose between zoology and tutoring. And so anyways, we pick it back up, but we are going to be doing painting with the animals. It's something that I used to do at the zoo.
Yeah.
All non-toxic, watercolor, water-based. It's all very safe. But basically, you let the snake go through the paint and then paint on the canvas, and you have a cool piece of artwork, and they're going to get to take it home with them.
Nice.
So they don't know about it yet. So I'm pretty pumped about that's going to be a great day. I'm going to need your help with that too.
Get right on that.
Yeah.
I was trying to find. I can't remember what Sean's. I can't remember what Sean's YouTube channel is.
The Herp podcast. Is that what you're talking about?
Sean who?
Sean Gray?
Herbcast.
Yeah, it's Herpcast.
But that's his thing, but it airs on his YouTube, right?
I think it's the same thing.
I suck at this.
The grants are on it tomorrow.
I know, that's why I was trying to be good and tell everybody about it, but I can't remember how they can find it, and I'm dropping the ball.
They could just look up Herbcast
Here it
on
is.
Facebook.
It's it's Herpcast.
We just said that.
Shut the fuck up. I was trying to say, but his YouTube channel is not Herpcast. His YouTube channel is Herp something, whatever. And I thought it was going to be on there.
I'll tell you, I got it right here.
This is riveting radio. But check that out tomorrow because our buddies Callie and John Grant are going to be on Sean Gray's show, which is on Wednesdays. It's the Herpcast. He brings on different vendors and stuff and talks about different vendors that he has at the shows. So go check that out. That's a great one. Also, go check out Rare Genetics Inc. on YouTube and watch Dr. Ben Morrill talk about genetics.
Is it kid friendly?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, his
Yeah.
is.
I mean, we're not
Ours
kid
is not.
friendly.
Ours is. Definitely not.
We had to have a conversation with our 12-year-old about not sharing our podcast with her friends.
Yeah,
She like just sent it in this group chat, and I'm like, Joe, this is not gonna be okay, baby.
I have to explain to their parents what's going on. I'm like, I didn't tell you get to watch that shit. Also,
It's labeled explicit.
it
People.
is. I mentioned this at the beginning. Anybody that wants get VivTech bulbs, I always keep forgetting. Check out VivTech and use code Gumbo22 on checkout and get your VivTech bulbs and your UV meters and all your smart things, all the VivTech stuff. Go help them out because helping them out helps us out. So please go do that. That'd be awesome. Our giveaway, I forgot to mention that earlier. Our giveaway this month, our friends over at Colossal Constrictors is giving away a Herpstat thermostat. So for anybody listening, all you gotta do is go over to either our Facebook page or our Facebook group, and you'll see it pinned there at the top. And you have to tell us your favorite episode, which I think one of them was actually your first episode.
It was.
That you were on. Someone said that was their favorite episode.
Yeah, that has made the list.
So tell us your favorite episode. Share the link to that episode on your Facebook page. Because again, I would like to grow this podcast, not just for me, but because we have so many cool people like Ben and like everybody else that we have on, that more people need to hear what they have to say, especially to drown out some of the other podcasts out there where it's just
noise.
Yeah, we'll go with noise. That's how the nice way to say it.
So I actually just shared, I know you're wrapping up and I'm sorry. I just shared a very cool picture on the Reptile Gumbo discussion page. It's titled Alligator River, and it's the reflecting eyes that are in the river of the Big Cypress National Preserve in Florida. And it literally looks like flashlights on the water. It's super cool.
Go for a night swim.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, but I shared it because I'm like, yes.
But again, for the enter the giveaway, go tell us your favorite episode, share the link to that favorite episode on your Facebook, and go give Colossal Constrictors a like either on Facebook or on Instagram, whichever one you use. But they deserve a like because again, they are giving away a thermostat. It's a Herpstat thermostat. It's a good thermostat. Katie, you want to talk about World Reptile Day coming up?
Yeah, so we did World Reptile Day with our buddy Megan last year.
October.
It was in October last year. We had it at a local neighborhood. She's already started the plans for next year. So if that's something, if you're local to Houston and you want to get involved with that, definitely reach out. We'll start sharing the posts on our page as well. But she's already planning some really epic stuff. I don't have the dates in front of me. She sent us a message.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through a couple of things that were in the chat real quick. Todd Sanders said, so y'all have probably already said this, but what can be tested for in ball python genetics specifically? Stuff. Lots of stuff and more stuff to come.
I can run through it pretty fast.
Go.
So we can do sex determination. So all of this is from a shed skin. And for the sheds, you want to make sure that you collect it as fast as you can and get it as dry as possible. It needs to be dry before you mail it in. The wet is what destroys it. So from those shed skins, we can do sex determination. We can do pied, clown, albino, lavender albino, hypo/ghost, candy/toffee. We can do in the yellow belly complex. We can do yellow belly, gravel, asphalt, spark, specter. I think that might be all of them. If it's not all of them, it's most of them. And so if you have possets for any of those recessive genes, we can tell you whether they're really het or not. And then if you're trying to tell some of the yellow belly ones apart, or if they're possibly a yellow belly and you all these other genes there, that's what those tests are for.
Awesome.
I think we need to come together though. As you realize certain things are the same thing, we need to all vote on a name and get rid of the other names so that we can stop confusing people when they go to a show and they have ghost on one table and hypo on the other table. And everybody knows it's the same damn thing. So
good luck.
Yeah. You mean I can't get the whole hobby to agree on something? That's weird.
Talk to some of the industry leaders. If they get enough messaging out, maybe they can get people all on the same page.
All we have to do is get Kabilko to agree to it, and then the rest of the follow behind him.
Until then, I'll put slashes.
DGB said Calubra genetic testing. Yes, for sex determination.
Yeah, so for morphs, that's definitely something that we want to do. And since and we have academic people like Dr. Siddell's group and the Canadian group, we have academic groups starting to help identify some of these. I would imagine it will make it much faster in other species. So I don't know if we'll make it in 2023, but at some point we'll branch out to hognoses or corn snakes or something like that. And we definitely would like to identify morphs in other species as well.
I'm glad to see you working with Dr. Siddell and all them, because I know when we talked to her, they talked about it not being a business model for them.
Yeah.
But they were doing some really good work. It's good to see that work is being able, you're not having to recreate the wheel there, that y'all are working together with that.
Yeah.
Which is, again, how science is supposed to work. You're supposed to work together for stuff.
Yeah, and we're officially collaborating for the first time on genetic stripe. So she had some genes that she thought were interesting, and we had a location from low pass whole genome sequencing that we did and comparisons between genetic stripe animals and non-genetic stripe animals. And with her information and our information together, we've got a gene that we think is genetic stripe in ball pythons. So that's one that we're working together on. We'll eventually figure it out all the way and have a paper. So we'll officially be co-authors down the road.
Fancy getting published and all. So I also still find it weird that for some reason, all of that whole area where you live is where all the snake scientists decided to live.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, huh?
I can't figure it out why it happened that way, but
Yep. Travis Warren
is now joined up there. Travis is up there. You're
Patrick.
up there. Loafman's
Patrick,
up there.
Right.
Yeah. It's just,
Yeah.
you just need to go visit Virginia, West Virginia, and just go like circle around and see everybody in person. Take it like it's not that big. It'd be less time to go do that than it was for us to drive to Tulsa.
Yeah.
Freaking Tulsa. I didn't even get to go to the quiet spot in Tulsa.
I know.
If I ever have to go there again, I'm going to go stand in a little spot where nobody can hear you.
Yep.
Just so I can yell dirty things and nobody can hear me say it. That's what I want to do. I want to yell "fuck you" as somebody's walking by and they can't hear you.
Oh my gosh.
How awesome would that be? There's no repercussions for it. That'd be great. Although I'll do it one time and it'll be like, oh no, this doesn't work anymore.
The wind was blowing the wrong way.
Now they can hear you say "fuck you." Oh, anyways, thanks. Come on. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it all up?
No. I would just say, that we, as you can tell, listening to this podcast, those that have listened to this, we are actively thinking about tests that we want to do. We definitely take people's information, things that you're interested in. If you have a species, like people have brought up some colubrid species for morphs. If you have some, go ahead and on our website, we have a help us, there's a help us button. You hit that, it'll give you a PO box to send sheds to. If you've got, a bunch of corn snakes or hognoses or something, and you have morphs that those have, if you start collecting sheds and mail them to us, that makes it faster that we would get those tests done. So that's a really big way. And Dr. Siddell as well, and any other researchers that end up doing similar work, pay attention, because when she puts out something saying, hey, we need sheds for this or that, those sheds make a difference. That's something that you all can do that can help move science along and also make genetic tests available for us as keepers and breeders. And then our new podcast that we're starting, love to hear in social media or comments on YouTube. And eventually when we do, we will get it listed in podcast places eventually. It was literally our very first one. We're probably even going to change the name, and we haven't settled down on things, but I am going to try to do it every week for a year. And
I can tell you,
we've done one. We'll do another one this week, and we'll get it refined. But any questions you have, that's a big part of that. I want to be able to educate people and take ideas that people have, and then be able to tell cool stories. Like I said, I hear really interesting, fun stories every week from customers, and so I want to be able to pass that along. And so we're very open to suggestions and ideas for the podcast as well.
I liked it. I listened to it. Like I said, I listened to it the day while I was fishing, and it was great. And it's a lot of interesting stuff. I do need to start saving up boa sheds and get you working on boa stuff. Because that would be awesome for like just know if shit is hypo or like het albino. I don't know if it's
I-
het albinos.
I've been saying this since the first time we had him on. 5 years, you're not going to sell an expensive snake without a test, especially if it's a het.
Yeah.
You're just nobody's going to buy an expensive breeder snake without a test from them.
And if somebody buys an expensive snake, they're probably very likely going to send off and get a test done. And if you just ripped them off, you're going to know right away. You won't have to wait 3 or 4 years. And then they'll say, well, you got bad odds, stuff like that.
That's right.
Yes. Well, I think
great.
two things are really changing the hobby. I think morph market has changed the hobby. And I think now with genetic testing, that's another huge thing that's going to change the hobby. All for the good. I think for good. One, like I said before, I think morph market has changed the hobby for the good in the sense that it is really balanced out prices on stuff. You don't get such dramatic price changes just where you live. And then the genetics, the other thing it will do is, again, it will stop people from going, yeah, this is a het, whatever, because that's what they wanted, not because that's what it is. Sure, it's het, whatever, and then I'm never going to see you again. And now a person is wasted, especially with like Boa's waiting 4 or 5 years for some of those to raise up, and everything's been screwed up. So, I think there was something. Oh, speaking of podcasts, I was wondering the other day because I was listening to Owen and Eric. Jesus Christ, names I can't. They were on the Leopard Gecko podcast and they're talking about podcasts and them coming and going, and so many do come and go. I'm wondering now. I know they are the longest active running podcast because they've been going for like 10 years now, something like that. And they've got like 500 and something episodes. And I know THP is slightly ahead of us on episode numbers. I'm wondering if we're the third longest running podcast.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. I know so many people that have started one and they get 10 episodes or so in, and then
it's rough. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to do this every week.
I'm going to be 100% honest, and I truly feel that Robert agrees with me on here. We would not be in this if it was not for you.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
I would have quit a long ass time ago if I was not married to you.
Anything besides just sit here and talk.
And there are weeks that we struggle with that alone. And you are the glue that holds this podcast together, James.
162 episodes. I don't know how many other like I know, like, so Bill said he had a podcast, and he does, but he does his podcast like once every like
here and there
solar eclipse or whatever. So I know it doesn't have the number of episodes. I know I've got more. Chris has been around longer, but I know I have more episodes than Chris at Snakes and the Fat Man.
Really?
But he didn't start kicking it up to every couple of weeks until last year.
Yeah, so I know I've got more.
I guess because I just get so many updates from.
He was like once a month.
Can we just talk about his new episode coming out?
And then he almost died a few times and didn't have one.
He did almost die. There was the whole almost dying thing.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about the episode coming out.
All Hot Guys episode.
Yes.
I'm waiting on my invite for that one.
Nah, don't hold your breath. It'll be fine.
I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to be on that.
I'm so excited about this. Like, don't get me wrong. I was super pumped about the Hot Chicks episodes too. So, I mean, I'm all about equality, but yeah, I'm pumped.
I can't say I'm that excited.
I am. It was great.
Does Chris have to sit out if he's on that one? Like someone else have to fill in for him?
Oh, shut up.
But no, I got to think there's 162 episodes. It's I can't imagine there's many more.
Congratulations, babe.
I'm tooting my own horn because this shit is hard every week.
When you hit 200, Robert and I'll do something special for you.
Once you hit 200, we can quit.
Is that where we're going? Because Robert, you heard him say it.
No. I throw out around the idea of quitting, and then I'm like, no, I enjoy this. So.
Yeah.
What if we just like cut it back to every 2 weeks?
Yeah,
I enjoy it most weeks. Like I've enjoyed it this week. I know I've been kind of quiet because I'm just so tired.
We stay test in 5 days, so my brain is not here.
See, my fear is the moment you're like, let's cut it back to 2 weeks, it becomes very easy. Let's cut it back to 3 once a month, and then you disappear like a lot of the other ones I've done it.
That makes sense.
So
I do like that you're starting to let Robert and I have breaks though. Like we'll record at shows so we can take a week off.
yes, that
is important. Maybe we should try to do that.
But I will tell you that recording at shows is much harder for me than it is.
So much.
I know.
We may need to try to record a couple of shows though for while I'm at camp, or we'll just have Corey Martin fill in for me again.
Let's record.
She did it last
We can
summer.
talk about that off there.
Yeah. I'm
All
sorry.
right.
That's okay.
Let's get out of here. Let's let Ben go.
Ben, thank you so much for tonight. It was so much
No
fun.
problem.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
having me. I enjoyed it.
And thanks everybody for watching. Again, don't forget our monthly giveaway. Go try and win you a Herbstat thermostat. Again, VivTech code Gumbo22. Save yourself with some light bulbs. We're getting some light bulbs for our new chameleon. That's it. Ben, if you'll hang around. Good night, everybody else. See y'all next week. When we have, hopefully, should be Ryan McVeigh. So see y'all next week. Da, da, da.